we're going to move to for the next part, but interesting thing that came to my mind how to introduce our next topic, which is basically how this Holocaust denial and Holocaust participation, distortion happened in the Arab world, and how it kind of manifests now to October 7 and October 8 phenomenon. So I was thinking, just a few months ago we celebrated the holiday of Purim. Purim is this great holiday that we like to drink a lot, dress up as cowboys, as Malkat Esther, and celebrate. And basically it's about they tried to kill us and we won, and let's eat sweets. But it's also very. After I started being an activist for fighting anti-Semitism here in the U.S., fighting for pro-Israel, I read it a few years ago again, the Megillah, the book in the Bible, and if you read it from the perspective of what we're doing here and why we're here, it's become a very interesting book. It's becoming basically a blueprint for anti-Semitism, for modern anti-Semitism. When you read this from that context, it has a completely different perspective for you. Think about Haman sees Mordechai, one guy, a Jew, not bowing to him, right? And it creates this rage in him that says, because of this single person who wronged me, you can argue about that, but this Jew wronged me, we need to kill all the Jews. Okay? Make a collective punishment because of the actions of one person. We actually do see that a lot in anti-Semitism today. And the second idea, the second concept that it brings is he goes to Hashverosh, to Cyrus, the king of Persia at the time, and he tells him, there's these people. He doesn't tell, hey, this guy wronged me. There's these people. They're not like us. They don't believe in the same gods as we do. And they're people without a land. They're dispersed among the nations. Right? So we should kill them and loot their belongings. They're very successful. We're going to become rich by taking their belongings. And we've seen that in the film here. And we know that throughout the history of the Jews all over the world, which is also part of the problem, why we need the state of Israel so much, right? Why we need to have a homeland. And with that, I'd like to invite Ben-Dori Mini to the stage to join me. Ben-Dori Mini is one of the most important, if not, in my mind, the most important, but I'm biased because he's also a friend of mine, journalist in Israel. He's been writing for now over 30 years in major Israeli media. Appears on TV, and one of his bestseller books, which might be one of the most important books written about for Israel advocacy, is The Industry of Lies. If you saw it on the slide, I really recommend reading it. I would say that good for Ben-Dori Mini, but unfortunately, it stands the test of time. It stands the test of time. It was written, 10 years ago, approximately? Maybe even more.
No, the English is...
Yeah,
Yes.
but if anything, it's even more relevant today than before. It's unbelievable. It's like the anti-Semites are reading his book and learning how to be anti-Semitic. So we are going to talk a little bit about what we saw and what the effects are a little bit on a more global perspective. So Ben-Dori, I have a few questions that I wrote here for you, and one is, the Holocaust is a European story, right? I mean, but how or were the Arab world and the Muslim world collaborating and participating in Jewish hatred?
Good evening. It's not easy to speak after such a movie, and I think I will speak on behalf of all of you, if I will thank the director. I cannot pronounce your name, Egan.
Eugene. Eugene.
Eugene. Because what you did is a great job, really. And it's really not easy. I mean, it was really moving. And even if we think that we know everything, when we see it again and we see it in this way, it's really moving. Anyway, sorry to tell you, my friend, you were wrong. Because the Holocaust is not a European story. Yes, maybe it began in Europe, maybe, but when we are speaking about history of Jews, persecutions, pogroms, and so on, maybe the Holocaust was a kind of the top, the highlight, but it happened during history, and it was a kind of building up to the point of Holocaust. But, if they just could, they wanted actually to expand it also to the Muslim world, to all the world. I mean, there was not any exemption to Jews from Muslim and Arab countries, and actually there were concentration camps, at least in 2 North African countries. And from Libya, for example, Jews were sent to Transis. I don't remember exactly the name of the camp, but it happened also in Muslim countries. Only if they could, they would continue it, they would expand it. And it's very interesting because when they wanted to continue and to occupy Egypt and after Palestine with Rommel, and they were stopped in the big battle of Al Alamein, the Arabs in Palestine called Rommel Abu Ali. It was his name, and they admired him, and they admired actually Hitler. We don't have a lot of information about how many people in Palestine, among the Arabs of course, supported the Nazis. We have only one poll that was conducted by an Arab who worked for the British consulate in Jerusalem. And according to him, something like 81% supported. But you could see it in the atmosphere, you could see it in the street, you could see the flag, you could see the flags. They were expecting that the Nazis will occupy and will solve the Jewish problem. And I can continue and go on to say that the leader of the Arabs of Palestine, the Mufti Haj Amin al-Husseini, he spent all the years of the war in Germany, calling from there, broadcasting to the Arab and Muslim world to kill all the Jews. But he was not the only one. I know that he is known. Haj Amin al-Husseini, okay, we know him. It was not only him. Fawzi Kaukji, one of the leaders of the Arabs in Palestine, also spent the years of the war in Berlin. And when he escaped and came back to the Middle East, he was actually appointed by the Arab League to be the commander of the Salvation Army, which is the army that invaded Palestine immediately after the Declaration of Independence. So it is totally connected. You cannot separate actually between Europe and the Muslim world. Needless to say that many Nazis high official Nazis, found their place after the war. They escaped to where? To Syria and to Egypt. Many of them, of course, South America, as we all know, but many of them actually came to the Middle East to help the Arabs. So it is interconnected, and you cannot really separate between what happened in Europe and what was the atmosphere, and not only the atmosphere, and the willing actually to kill all the Jews also in the Middle East.
Now, this is very interesting because, first of all, we don't hear a lot about that. And, they say that history is written by the winners, but it seems that, is it? There's a lot of history here, that we don't hear or know about. Also, it seems that the narrative, which is kind of an alternative word to history, is completely different. And it's ruling now the environment, especially here on campus and other campuses. So is it written by winners?
It's a very interesting question, because yes, we always say that the history is written by the, but it did not happen. It did not happen. Take for example the Nakba. Take for example the Nakba. I guess every student who is demonstrating against Israel knows a lot about Nakba. Not they do not really know the details, but for them the Nakba is a kind of the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, the genocide against Palestinians from Palestine. So let me tell you something. First of all, there were not Palestinians until 48.
So stop using that word, please.
Excuse me?
Don't use it. The people living in the land of Israel before 48 were not calling themselves Palestinians.
So let me say. So I don't understand.
Have been until now.
I don't understand what you're saying, because that's exactly the sentence when you interrupted me. So actually, my parents, they were Palestinians, because they grew up under the British mandate. They were Palestinians. The Arabs of Palestine were called Arabs. That's all. But every Jewish institution in that time was called actually Palestine. Palestine Post is the Jerusalem Post of today. Palestine Bank is the Bank Leumi, National Bank of Israel today, and so on and so on. The coins, the money, Palestine, it was called. And people do not understand it. Many times the poor Palestinians and those who are trying to say, yes, there was a state, Palestine, they are showing the Palestine name on many institutions and excuse me, but it's called Palestine Aleph Yud, which means Eretz Israel. Palestine Bank was the Zionist bank, the Jewish bank. But they don't know. Now, they speak about the Nakba. No, history was not written by Israel. Nakba is the outcome of the so many declarations of we are coming to exterminate you. We are coming, they invaded. Israel did not launch any war against the Arabs. By the way, Israel never initiated a war against the Arabs. Israel always, even now, had to defend itself, but never initiated the war. So who is right in history? When I see here in the universities, and I was here, and my wife was here in the sabbatical year, when I'm going to libraries, you don't find a word about the Jewish Nakba, the expulsion, the pogroms against Jews from Arab countries. But you find so many shelves about the Nakba, like if the Jews carried out a kind of Holocaust against the Palestine. I mean, we have to apologize that we were not exterminated. I mean, what is happening? What about those? What about the real story? So, no. The answer, no. We are not writing history. History is actually manipulated by the professors here. Totally manipulated. Unfortunately. And we have to face it. We have to fight against it. So they are speaking about, many times, about the Jewish power, Jews control, I don't know what, universities, the media. I wish they were. They are not. We are not. Because everything is distorted against the Jews. And you will ask, if you will ask any student here from Harvard, from BU, from any other university, he will tell you that the Nakba was one of the most terrible crimes in the history of the modern age. They are so much manipulated. Did you know that they invaded Israel in Israel? No, they don't know. Do you know that they actually declared once and again that they are coming to exterminate? No, they don't know. Totally distorted. Totally distorted. So we are not we are not dominating anything. We are not controlling anything. And all of this, just a few days ago, it was Norman Finkelstein. I guess you know the name, most of you. A Jewish scholar. Jews control Hollywood, which is a very anti-Semitic kind of cliche. But he is saying, Jews control. No, we do not control. I wish we were strong, as people say about us.
Norman Finkelstein, for the younger generation, is a historian, so-called, anti-Zionist, anti-Semite Jew that writes a lot of books against everybody in the Jewish world. So one of the things that we saw here that Eugene did was challenge the national ethos of the Baltic countries. And there's a big struggle here about the sins of the past, of alienation, and their national ethos that they're trying to build. Do we see that also in the Arab world? And do we see any kind of attempt to repent or to say, okay, you know what, maybe we need to think a little bit differently?
How can they? How can they, when in Harvard and Columbia and Berkeley, people are telling them that the Jews are the criminals? How can they? I mean, how can you expect Arabs, Palestinians, to regret what happened in 48? How can they? They even deny the very fact that they invaded Israel in order to exterminate the Jews. They live in denial. I'm speaking now about the majority. Of course, you can always find some scholars, some activists who will tell yes, it happened. And we have to take the blame on ourselves. There are some. But most of them follow Norman Finkelstein and Judith Butler and all the others. That for them, the heroes are the people of Hamas and Hezbollah. Now, when you tell them, look, but the whole ideology of the Hamas is extermination of Jews. And I think I presented it here in one of my lectures. Look, one by one, the leaders of Hamas are speaking about exterminating the Jews. They don't care anymore about facts, because we have narratives. We have narratives, and they don't care about facts. Now, does it mean that we do not have to continue with exposing the truth? No, it doesn't mean. It means that we have a lot of work. We can never give up. We can never say, okay, this is it, and no. We have to work on it. It's not easy. It's not simple. We need movies like that. We need a lot of other people who are honest enough, decent enough, in order to present the realities about what happened in October 2nd, about what happened in 48. It's not easy. It's not simple. But we have to keep on fighting.
So finally, we bring it back to October 8th now, right? And we talked about the Nakba, we talked about Holocaust distortion. How did this become such a prominent focal point of the progressive movement here in the US, where basically you have, it gets to the ridiculous points of queers for Palestine, right? Just, I don't know if you saw, just a few days ago, there was a walkout in Natick High School.
Yeah,
and of students in support of, or against the genocide that's happening in Palestine, not even Gaza, in Palestine. One of the students that were speaking there was some sort of LGBTQ activist. She said, I'm not a he, I'm not a she, I'm a they. And I want to fight, I'll just summarize it into one sentence. I want to fight for LGBT rights in Palestine. I think that's actually a very notable fight that she should conduct, but I think she has kind of her oops. I turned it off somehow.
Battery might have gone.
Or maybe the battery died. No, I'm back. It was a timeout. It's a computer. Computer
Maybe the
problem.
battery.
I think she should try to fight for LGBTQ rights in Palestine, in Gaza, and she should go there and fight them. So yeah.
Okay, it's very interesting. I mean, let me tell you something. You know, Robert, that I was not surprised because of what happened at the evening of October 7th, when demonstrations began immediately against what? Against Israel, not against the Hamas, not against atrocities, not against raping and beheading people. No. All the demonstrations actually were against Israel. And you are asking yourself, what is happening here? Let me tell you what is happening here. What is happening here is that we are spending about years again.
Is it?
No.
That's where the button is. You guys are becoming younger and younger.
Of a brainwashing machine. About what? About Zionism is colonialism. Zionism is colonialism. And the main idea in many universities here is what we need is decolonization. But we have to remember one thing. Before everything else, before they are against Zionism, they are against the West. Don't misunderstand the bigger story. The bigger story is that they are against themselves. They are against the West. West is full of sins. The United States is full of sins. Colonization, here, Native Americans and so on, it's a crime against humanity. So the whole story of Zionism for them is the best example of colonialism. No, it's not colonialism. The whole idea of Zionism is, to make it short, the whole idea of Zionism is that so many people were striving for one thing, for not only the Jews, but many other peoples who lived under empires, under the rule of empires. So many peoples were looking for what? For freedom, for self-determination. That's exactly why Zionism began at the end of the 19th century. Why? Because in that time, so many other peoples were striving for self-determination. And because Jews were persecuted also under the rule of empires and also under the rule of national movements, they said, we need it too. So the whole idea of Zionism, just the whole the idea of self-determination is anti-colonialist. Zionism is anti-colonialism. But here, as they do in any other aspect which is connected to the Jewish state, they just do the opposite. But Zionism is anti-colonialism. But here what happened is that because they were brainwashed for so many years that Zionism is colonialism, the demonstrations in October 8th in Times Square in New York, in Manhattan, where decolonization is not a metaphor, which means we are allowed by any means necessary, I'm quoting the science, by any means necessary, including rape, including beheading. But it was after so many years of actually convincing so many people, the students, the professors. It did not begin today. In MESA, for example, Middle East Studies associations of all the professors who teach about the Middle East, 75% voted in favor of the BDS before October 7. How can you teach about the Middle East? How can you teach about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict when you support the BDS? You cannot. You cannot. Because the whole idea of the BDS is that Israel has no right to exist. So what you are teaching? You are not. You are not. It's maybe propaganda. It's not scholarly. So we could not be surprised. I could not be anyway, because I'm following what is happening here in the academia for so many years. And when you are brainwashed against the Jewish state, just like people were brainwashed against Jews, then the outcome is everything is justified, including beheading, including rape. But the very fact that the main newspapers, it's not only academia, the main newspapers never showed the readership that actually Hamas is calling for the extermination of Jews. Hamas is calling for the extermination of all infidels, including Christians. Hamas, before ISIS, actually, once and again, called for the conquering of the whole world, I'm quoting, for the conquering of the two Americas, in order to impose the Islamic Caliphate, the Islamic Empire. They ignore it. They just do not say it. They do not show that the Hamas, once and again, raised the flag of the Nazis, the swastika. Totally ignored. Did you ever see it in the newspapers here? Never. But that's something that the Palestinians are doing once and again. totally ignored. When you manipulate the public opinion in the general public, when you manipulate the students with the Nakba as one of the biggest crimes in modern history, then the outcome is what we received in Columbia, in Harvard, in Berkeley, in so many other universities. This is the outcome. This is the outcome of what I call industry of lies, a huge industry of lies. We cannot give up. We have to fight it. We have something that belongs to us, which is truth. We have to use it. Thank you.
At this point, Eugene, do you want to join us on the stage? Yeah, we'll take questions after that from the audience. So, Eugene, thank you for this film. It was excellent. And I didn't know Eugene before the film. ICANN helped with sponsoring the movie, and that's when we met, and we became like brothers afterwards. So I love this extracurricular activity that I do in my non-professional life, because I meet amazing people and I get attached to them. So I want to give you a quick update about some stuff that happened post the movie production. There were some photos when the movie was interviewing Sylvia, the author. There were some photos that you could see of Sylvia Grant and our CEO of ICANN, our chief lobbyist, Dylan Hosier, in Congress in Washington, D.C. So we took that story and went to the State Department. We lobbied the State Department to actually pressure some of these Baltic states to start recognizing their participation and removing those heroic symbols of these Nazis, their own Nazis, as you saw in the film. The first step of success that we had, there was a few years ago, there was a NATO summit in Vilnius, Lithuania. And we took two actions. So with the State Department basically issued an ultimatum to the government of Lithuania that they will not support the NATO summit there if they don't start taking actions against those so-called heroes. And as a result, the government in Lithuania opened a commission, an inquiry commission, into the war crimes of the people some of the people that are mentioned in the film. The second action that we did was actually we shamed the Lithuanian government, and we posted a travel advisory to all the member states of NATO that were coming to Vilnius, and said, here are the locations on the map, kind of like a Google map with the sites where these Nazis statues and memorials are erected. Avoid them. This was kind of like, and they actually, for the Soviet event, the government actually covered some of these statues. But the more dramatic result is that just recently, in the last couple of months, the commission came with the conclusion, a declaration, where they declared Noreka, the grandfather of Sylvia, as a war criminal. So that was actually a win. So you see, this is a little bit. I'm giving you also kind of a case study in activism and why our work and your work in supporting the lobbying work that we're doing in the local governments is bearing fruit. The second actually update, which is actually a negative one, that's an L for us, is in Latvia.
They took the other.
Where there was a court case against Tsukus, the guy that you saw with the musical that was made for him. And basically, the judge exonerated him for any war crimes and declared him still a hero of Latvia. So we still have a lot of work to do.
The reason why is absolutely.
So tell us the reason why.
So the reason they had behind the decision was that because their witnesses gave their testimonies to the Jewish organizations and Soviet authorities not under oath. So all of the 12 boxes that I personally saw of testimonies that are in the Yad Vashem of people who saw Tzukurs commit some crimes against the Jews in the Riga ghetto are irrelevant because they were not given under oath. And therefore, because no witnesses are alive, the Latvian government decided to exonerate Tzukurs completely. So as of today, Tzukurs is a Latvian hero, and Mossad made a mistake when they executed him. So there's two stories, Lithuanian success and Latvian
Exactly what
failure.
we're talking about, the national ethos, right? Thank you. So Eugene, let's talk a little bit about you and the movie. Yes, obviously it's very personal for you. Holocaust is, a lot of us European Jews, we are descendants of Holocaust survivors as well, not just you. But you took, I personally am, right? And you took actions about it, so, and you made a movie. What inspired you to do that, and what inspired you to actually to choose that media as a film, to make a film about it? This is your first film, right?
Yeah, this is my first film, yes. So back in 2014, I visited Latvia, and I was going there pretty often because my grandfather was trying to get the properties back. We failed, but that's another story. And on every trip I would visit Agnes, the mass grave, because I remember as a small child, every summer, on July 18th, we would get into my grandfather's car and we would travel for like 5 hours to the place. And I didn't know what it was, I just went there because I was small. And then when we came to America in '89, my grandfather started talking. And then I found out the real reasons why we're going there and what he went through. So when I went back to Latvia, I went back to the town. And on my previous trip, it was back in 2013, there was no monument next to the Jewish grave, as you saw in the film. And in 2014, I come and there's this beautiful, stone with gold letters, it says, "Long live Latvian partisans, and you fought for the freedom of Latvia," or something like that. And then I saw the name of Vilis Tunkelis, and I couldn't believe it because everybody knew, including some Latvian historians who actually wrote about it, that Vilis Tunkelis was the initiator and the leader of the gangs that were going town to town and killing Jews before the Germans even got there, as you saw in the film. And that's 2014. I thought it was a mistake, I couldn't believe it, and obviously I was angry, but there was nobody to talk to. So then I went back to Riga and I talked to our attorney who was handling the properties case, and he looked at me like, "Why are you surprised? It's all over Latvia and Lithuania." And I've decided to create a website, and I called it Baltic Truth in 2014. But it remained empty for 4 years because I had, I didn't really know what to put there, and I ended up talking to State Department Holocaust Issues department. Was a guy named Douglas Davidson who was running it back then, and everyone was so emotionally upset about this. And there was a lot of talk but no action. Nobody did anything. I even met with an American ambassador in Riga. I went to DC, and my grandfather, before he died in 2013, he said, "What you're doing, you're shaking the air. Nothing will happen." And he was 100% right. And then in 2018, I said, well, I think this is, I saw the Ruta Vanagai that came to Boston with her book presentation. And as I was sitting, like you guys are sitting right now in the audience, listening to her, I said, "Oh my God, this is a movie." So I came up to her and I made up a story that I'm a producer and I'm working on a documentary called Baltic Truth, and I would like to interview you. And she said, "Yeah, I'm in Boston for one more day. How about tomorrow?" And so what you saw in the film is actually not the original interview. We had to, because it wasn't done really the right way, so we had to refilm it. We went to Vilnius and we met with her and we refilmed it. But yeah, November of 2018 is when we started filming, and we completed the film by like end of 21, I think. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely, it was beautiful. Thank you. So now, this is something that I've been meaning to ask you, and I never asked you, in all the dinners that we've had together. There's a glimpse of it in the film, is when you're interacting with the locals. So how was, when you're going through the Baltic countries and you're filming, and you're basically filming something that breaks their national pride, it actually, how was your interaction with the locals? Did you feel threatened? Did you have any negative, other than the interaction that we saw here? Because like Grant Goshen, which is featured in the movie as well, there was an arrest warrant against him in Lithuania.
So first of all, we were lucky that 90% of what you saw was filmed during COVID. And there was nobody out there. So the only interaction that we had, and you saw that, was the half-naked guy trying to drive us off the property because he knew what we were doing. And there was one other interaction that we had in Akniste, and I'm really angry that we turned the cameras off and we were packing, and then, so right next to the field where the Jews were executed, there was somebody's house, and they had like an apple orchard. And while my crew was packing up, I decided to go and pick on an apple. So I stepped into somebody's property, and I took an apple. And this woman comes out, and she said, "Oh, take more if you want." And then she asked me, "What are you doing here?" I've never seen anybody in this field for years. I know what happened here, but what are you guys doing? So I told her what we were filming. She looked me in the eyes and she said, they would, she said Latvian, but it sounded like if they had a chance today, they would have done it again. And this was a Latvian woman living right at the killing site. She knew what happened there because her mother told her. And she was completely sure that this is going to happen again. That's from the locals, but otherwise it was really not much.
Except once you were stopped by...
But that was a little... the person who wrote, I gotta give you a little secret, the person who wrote the script for this film, he's not even Jewish. He's half Latvian, half Belarusian, from Riga. A journalist from Latvia, so we worked together, but he wrote kind of polished the final version. Because in 2009 or 2010, he did some work for the Russian television, Lithuania made him persona non grata. And when we went from Latvia to Lithuania, he would turn his phone off, because he knew he would get probably deported right away if they know he's there. And that's exactly what happened to us. When we were filming at the 9th Fort, we came there at 6 in the morning, we were done by 11. And when we drove into the parking lot, there was a police van standing way back in the corner of the parking lot. I really didn't know what to think of it. It was just, there's nobody there, just a police van. So we finished filming, I'm driving, so there's 5 of us in the car. Duda Fisher, me, and 3 other people. And all of a sudden this police van follows us. We get to the road, lights on, so I stop, so what did I do? 4 people with machine guns come out. They come to the window, I give them my license, and they say, in English, they say, passports, everybody. And when they came back, they arrested Andre. For somehow they were able to, figure out that he's in Lithuania, so he was arrested, and
his phone was off?
So my camera guy and Andre, they worked together, and Andre's phone was off, but the camera guy, Vadim, his phone was on. And when we were in Vilnius, somebody from the Russian television called him and said, we're trying to reach Andre. We have an assignment in Vilnius. Can you guys film something for us? So they asked me, we were like done filming something else, and I said, no, take the car and just go. We're gonna go to the hotel, we're done for today, go make some money, why not? And that's how they found him, because they were tracing both phones.
Okay, so with this film, you received fame, not fortune, but fame, and I think so
I have to say goodnight.
No, so we have a surprise here. Give us 2 more minutes, and why don't you join us on stage? Professor Katz was featured in the movie. He's a professor at BU. He's surprised us that he came here. Please take the seat. And if you can give us a few words, and if the audience would like to ask any questions, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. That's okay. I don't need to stand on this.
I'm sorry, I missed your introduction. What would you like me to do?
No, I was afraid you were going to sit back in the chair, that's all.
Oh, thank you. I just want to say, when I was approached to make the film, to participate, I was of course happy to do it. I had not seen it till tonight. And the fact is, it's a very, very important film. We just finished the semester. And one of the things that I have my seminar discuss is the most important question of all the questions about the Holocaust. How could people do it? That's the $64 question. How could they do it? And tonight, I realized that my treatment of that problem was only very partial, because I deal with German killers, I deal with leading people, Goebbels, Himmler, Eichmann, and I don't do justice to the problem that the film raises about our neighbors. Of course, there's a famous book that was written about 20 years now called Neighbors, about what happened in a small Polish town where the neighbors, just as in parts of Lithuania and Latvia, killed their neighbors without any help from the Germans. So the profound question that the film raises is, what is it in society that is so toxic, so poisonous, that killing Jews is considered to be a good idea because it's seen as eradicating lice, eradicating Untermenschen, people who are inhuman. So I just say to the producer, now you're a producer, that it's a marvelous film, and I congratulate you. And I congratulate also the comments that were made. I'm very sorry to hear the comments about the Muslim situation, about the Islamic situation, because it's very important. You know, on the map, that the list and the map that they had at the Wannsee conference where they discussed the final solution, they had on it already the names of North Africa that were going to be places to kill Jews, and the Yishuv in the land of Israel, the Einsatzgruppen were already close behind Rommel, special murder squads, because they were going to overtake the land of Israel, which had between 400,000 and 600,000 Jews, and murder all of them. And you mentioned al-Husseini, almost nobody knows his name except learned people like you. He was the head of the Muslim population in the land of Israel, went to Berlin, as was said. So it's sad to hear this, though, and I'll tell you why I'm sad. Not because of the content, which I know is very depressing, but how uneducated we've allowed the situation to be in our public schools. How terrible our college situation is, that Jewish students don't know the story. Comma v'kama, how much more so the non-Jewish students don't know the story. Kids go 12 years to day school, and when they come out, they don't know the first thing about the history of Israel. Moreover, I would just add the issue about colonialism. If you think of what colonialism means, and you just know a little bit of Jewish history, you know that for 1,000 years, from Saul and David and Solomon, all the way to the destruction of the Second Temple in 70, the Jews controlled the land of Israel with some intervals for Hellenism. Then Jews were there till the 5th century and Islam came. And they remained there, and then they were killed by the Crusaders, but they came back to Sfat in the 16th century, and the disciples of the Baal Shem Tov came in the 18th century, and parallel movement among the disciples of the Gra, of the Vilna Gaon from Vilna, which is your subject. My students come to me with 12 years of day school, they don't know any of this. We're doing a terrible, terrible job, and we're doing a disservice to ourselves. That we need to think about how to improve Jewish education that involves history. Our day schools do a very bad job, which makes me very depressed. I'm sorry, what do you want to say? So altogether, this has been a very educational experience for me, and I'm sure it's been for you. So I thank you all very much for doing it, and I hope we'll do better in the future.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Any questions to the professor before he has to depart?
I'll be happy to answer easy questions.
Okay, if not, then
No? Okay.
thank you so much for coming. It was a wonderful surprise for us.
Thank you. When you get to be in your 80s, it's not so simple. Thank you.
Thank you,
Live
sir.
and told. Thank you very much. Good for us, Mom, buddy. Live and told.
Thank you. So, Eugene, one last question before we turn to the audience. What's your next project? Obviously, you have the Bible of Hollywood in you now.
Yes. So I decided I couldn't stop on one film, so we decided to do another film. So for the past year, we've been working on a script. It's a very hard film to do. It's going to be an October 7th event. But we're not going to do another film that's going to repeat previous projects. There's been so many short videos and films, and October 8th just came out. So we're starting a film called Ashes of Identity, and we're going to focus on the Ashes of Identity. Yes. It's going to focus on, number one, on the psychological trauma of the society, and then it's going to kind of investigate what anti-Semitism really is. So what kind of virus is that, and how it mutates. And we're going to try to attempt to compare what happened on October 7th to the Holocaust. So it's going to be sort of similar to what you saw in Baltic Truth. I kind of call it Baltic Truth too. So it's going to be similar style. We'll do the Fisher film. And we're calling it Ashes of Identity because one of the kind of, let's say, pivotal part of the film is the work of Israeli archaeologists who, for the first time I think it's the first time in history of Israel, where Jews had to be identified from the ash. So I've met with Dr. Joe Uzalai at Robert's house for the presentation, and that's when the idea was born. And so we're gonna, and they were able to actually identify 16 people from nothing. So one of the stories Joe told me is that I think it was Kibbutz Be'eri.
Yep.
They were walking through the rubble of what was left of a couple of houses, and the soldiers just told them, just keep going, there's nothing there. And he opened the door, and this was a safe room with a little pile of kind of trash in the middle of the room. And he decided to see what that is, and apparently that little pile was 2 burnt bodies. And that's how they started to work on identification, because now they knew that they have to look at more than just, burned, furniture and whatever was left. And, so they started treating everything as a forensic crime scene. So that's our next film, and we're actually starting to film in June 7th. We're going to Israel. And we're raising money for this film through nonprofit, through the ICANN. So if anybody is interested in helping, I have some brochures that I can hand out before you guys leave.
So now I'd like to open it for you guys to ask questions. You have also an opportunity to ask more about anything that's going on in Israel. So yeah, let me walk through. I'll kind of like do the yo-yo here because we're not enough mics. So yeah, you first.
First of all, thank you very much for the presentation. It was great. Without a lot of it we knew already. My thoughts about it is that Jewish education starts at home, and history is taught at home of each of us, of each Jewish household. And I have a suggestion. Why don't you start some documentary about Jews who are the worst enemy of Jews? We have so many organizations here in the United States. I participated in many demonstrations against this organization, like Jewish Voice for Peace, where all participants in these organizations are Jews. I have a picture of them. During this demonstration, I was taking picture of them. And why don't we start something like that to explore them? Who are they? Who fund them? And show their faces to our community. So we meet them on the street and we know who they are. I have this suggestion. It starts at home.
So anybody who would like to participate in such activity, this is actually a good idea, and I think we can start maybe with using social media to expose this. The Massachusetts chair of the ICANN here, Nurit Friedman, is here, and maybe you could contact her because she's also organizing a lot of rallies and counter rallies, exactly addressing these issues. So can you stand for a second, just so people see you? Just stand so people approach you afterwards. Okay? I'm already next to your seat, so.
Another suggestion, they have radiographs of the x-rays, or radiologists, of some of the female victims where there are like 5 or 10 different shell fragment bullets, AK-47 bullets. How many does it take to kill one, or does it show the violence and the intent? One x-ray, one picture is worth 1,000 words. That might be added along with the DNA of the ashes. I'll talk to you later.
Hi, mine are very quick. One is what happened to the man that was arrested, and 2, the woman with the apple. Did you ask her why, if there are hardly any Jews there, why people still think that would kill Jews again?
That was good pressure, thank you.
So I didn't ask her. I was, to be honest, I was shocked to hear this. I wasn't even prepared for this. I was just reaching for an apple. And then the story about Andre. He was taken to Central Jail, and actually not jail. It's like a central. It's called Security Police Headquarters in Kaunas. And they told us to follow them. So we waited for him and the whole day. So we were down by 11, and we drove up to this gate with the barbed wire, and they said, wait. 1 hour we were just standing there, and then Andre called me. He said, go for a walk, go see the city. It's going to be very long. We didn't know what to expect. And 6 p.m. Dudu Fisher, he had to pray because he's observant. And we walked through the whole Kaunas, we saw everything. We're done. 6 p.m. we're back to the jail, sitting in our van. Dudu says, listen, let me say, I'm going to pray for Andre. Write down his name, so I wrote down the name. As soon as he finished praying, he took his tallit off. It was like 1 second passed. Andre calls, pick me up. But we picked him up not from the jail, but from the Kaunas airport. So the police turned him over to the border patrol, and they were gonna deport him next morning by the plane. But so they have to buy him a ticket, they have to feed him, they have to, keep him in the facilities. They have to provide a hotel room for him. She was able to talk them into, giving him to us because we're driving back to Riga tonight, and they wouldn't have to feed him, they wouldn't have to buy him a ticket. So they said, okay, we'll come. So we went to pick him up, and we drove back to Riga. You bribed them.
Yeah.
So you told us all the pressure applied on Canadian government by NATO and from State Department. How about the State of Israel? What has been the attitude of the State of Israel, regarding the East European countries, especially Lithuania, Latvia?
Actually, let's pass it to Bendor. הבנת את השאלה? מה היחס של ישראל לכל המדינות הבלטיות ולכל החששות?
Well, unfortunately, that like in many other aspects, Israel is not really game with it. I mean, you can ask the question like, what Israel is doing against what I call the industry of lies. What Israel is doing against all this, and Israel is doing, but much less than what is necessary. It is just the same about the Baltic countries, just the same the conflict that Israel had some years ago vis-a-vis Poland, with, not this government, but the previous government. So we had this kind of problems, and unfortunately, as I guess you know, if you are familiar with the story, that many times you have this kind of Israeli professors who always support the other side. We have it in politics, we have it in the industry of lies. The source of so many lies is actually Israeli professors, unfortunately. They want to be accepted by their colleagues abroad, so they want their articles to be published. So many times they are part of the problem, not part of the solution. So it's the same about the Baltic countries. Oh, we have so many other problems to deal with. So Israel is not really doing something. Yes, there was only with the story of Poland, but for example, the head of the Holocaust Museum of Poland is a professor from the Hebrew University. And actually he is collaborating with Poland, much more than that, he is totally anti-Zionist. Just an example. Unfortunately.
Thank you. Thank you for this very important film. You know, as a French Jew, I grew up like every Jew in the world with stories of the grandmother. And, I mean, I believe every Jew in the world has a story, but I spent my life asking myself, how did that happen, what my grandmother was telling me? And, you know, I remember I made Aliyah, you know, I went to Israel, and I remember 9/11 and where I was and what happened, and I saw how the world was standing with the United States, and I remember the terrorist attack in the Bataclan in Paris, and how everybody on their Facebook page was, I am Paris, you know. And then October 7 happened, and Israel stands alone. And this is like, what? And what I'm asking myself today is, do politicians in Israel, because I don't feel that we understand from here, but do politicians in Israel, do Israel cares really what the world keeps thinking about what Israel is doing? Like, we have the right to defend ourselves? Well, thank you for letting us, you know, having the right to defend ourselves. It's like, it's absurd, it's ridiculous. This is very hard. This is very hard to understand this situation from here, for me.
Yeah, there's a book that was written at the world likes dead Jews, right?
Yes.
You want to comment about this?
It's very interesting because immediately after the 9/11, in that very day I was in Washington. Not only in Washington, but inside the White House when it happened. So somebody saved us when they actually did not let the plan that was supposed to be on the White House, when they crashed it in Pennsylvania, they saved our lives. But I can tell you that immediately after the 9/11, something very interesting happened. Speaking at the academic field, so many articles were published immediately after with a question that repeated itself. Why do they hate us? And it was interesting because many of the answers were, it's because we collaborate with Israel, and because we support this kind of Arab regimes and so on. And one professor, his name is Juan Col. In that time he was the president of MESA, Middle East Studies Association. He published an article claiming that the official Congress committee that inquired why did it happen wrote in the report, that's what he wrote, that they wrote in the report that the perpetrators carried it out because of what happened, the massacre that Israel committed in Jenin. So let me tell you two things. First of all, there was not any massacre in Jenin. Many soldiers were killed. But there was only one problem, because I went to the online report, the official report of the Congress. Surprise, surprise, I did not find the word Jenin. Not only that, it could not appear, because of the very simple reason. The 9/11 was in 2001. The Jenin battle was in 2002. How can they carry out in 2001 something that, because of something that actually happened the year later? I'm saying it just an example of the depth of the blatant lies disseminated by professors, and he is the president of MESA. It is just one example. So, and does Israel care about it? Yes, they do. But let me tell you, I have a lot of criticism to the Israeli government about what they do and what they don't do. But I have my own rule. I'm not speaking about the Israeli government when I'm abroad. I do it when I'm in Israel. Whoever knows what my opinions are can read my articles in many languages because I publish it in Hebrew, I publish it in English, but when I'm abroad, I'm defending the state of Israel. I'm not defending the Israeli government.
Any more questions? Okay, so thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate your time. It's been a long evening and a lot of material and content. Thank you, Rabbi Proust, for hosting us. This is a wonderful facility. But it's a synagogue, temple of faith, so we appreciate it very much. I'd like to encourage you all to go to icanaction.org, our website.